Discovery Season 1 made a bold decision that Star Trek hasn't dared repeat since. When Star Trek Discovery premiered in 2017, it wasn't just a return to television for one of science fiction's most iconic franchises, it was a reinvention. After more than a decade off TV, Discovery carried the weight of resurrecting Star Trek for a new era of streaming audiences, all while remaining faithful to a legacy that spanned over 50 years. The first season of Discovery divided fans, yet one thing is undeniable: it made a creative decision so audacious, so structurally daring, that Star Trek hasn't attempted anything like it since. That bold decision was to turn the entire first season into a long con. By secretly transforming its apparent villain, the Klingon War, and its apparent hero, Captain Gabriel Lorca, into two sides of a deeper, darker twist involving the mirror universe, Discovery redefined how a Star Trek story could be told. It embraced serialized storytelling, moral ambiguity, and a breathtaking narrative reversal that remains one of the franchise's most shocking reveals. And perhaps the most telling thing of all? Despite its success in redefining tension and mystery within the Star Trek format, no Trek series since has dared to repeat that risk. A franchise built on certainty took a leap into deception. Star Trek has always been a show about ideals, truth, integrity, and the boundless optimism of exploration. The captains of Starfleet, from Kirk to Picard to Janeway, were beacons of moral clarity, even when the universe wasn't. The Star Trek formula has historically thrived on open narratives. The audience knows what to expect, and even when the crew encounters darkness, they confront it head-on. Discovery shattered that formula. From its very first episode, it was clear that the show would not play by Star Trek's traditional rules. Michael Burnham's mutiny in the pilot immediately broke the image of Starfleet officers as paragons of order. The Federation wasn't presented as a flawless utopia, but as a bureaucracy strained by fear and war. Most daringly, the show's apparent moral center, Captain Gabriel Lorca, turned out to be a lie. Jason Isaacs' Lorca, introduced as the battle-hardened, pragmatic captain of the USS Discovery, embodied the kind of morally gray leadership that seemed fitting for wartime. He clashed with Starfleet's ideals, but he also got results. Viewers were invited to believe this was the cost of survival in the Klingon War. Yet, episode by episode, hints began to accumulate: Lorca's obsession with war tactics, his discomfort with bright light, his manipulative charm. The twist, revealed in Vaulting Ambition, was that Lorca wasn't Starfleet's savior. He was from the mirror universe, impersonating the Prime Lorca to seize power and return to overthrow the Terran Emperor. This reveal was more than a shock. It was a philosophical bombshell. For decades, Star Trek had been about trust in the captain, in Starfleet, in the better angels of humanity. Discovery dared to ask, what happens when that trust is exploited? The mirror universe, not as a gimmick, but a season's heart. The mirror universe has been a Star Trek tradition since the 1967 original series episode Mirror, Mirror. It's a reliable trope, beloved by fans for its camp, its danger, and its inversion of familiar characters. But Discovery did something that no other Trek had done before. It turned the mirror universe into the emotional and narrative core of an entire season. This wasn't a one-episode detour or a fun what if. The mirror universe was the hidden engine of the entire story. For 10 episodes, audiences thought they were watching a war story. Only later did they realize it was a mirror universe infiltration story from the start. The show's creative team, led by then showrunners Bryan Fuller initially and Alex Kurtzman, had taken a risk that few franchises of Star Trek stature would attempt. They rewired the structure of a serialized drama around a secret identity twist that redefined everything that came before. When Discovery finally crossed over to the mirror universe mid-season, it didn't just mirror the Federation's ideals, it dismantled them. We saw what humanity could become without Starfleet's morality: brutal, hierarchical, and utterly self-serving. For Burnham, it became a crucible, a test of whether the values of the Federation could survive in the darkest possible world. In short, Discovery Season 1 didn't just visit the mirror universe, it made it the mirror for the audience. Star Trek hasn't taken that kind of risk again. Since Discovery's debut, Star Trek has expanded into a sprawling multimedia universe. Picard, Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds, Prodigy, and the upcoming Starfleet Academy. Yet despite this creative boom, none have replicated Discovery's structural audacity. Why? because Discovery Season 1's risk came with consequences, both in storytelling and in fan reaction. Many longtime Star Trek fans were unsettled by the show's tone. The serialized format felt foreign to those accustomed to Trek's episodic adventures. The grim moral ambiguity, the secrecy, the deception, these were elements more common to prestige dramas like Battlestar Galactica or Game of Thrones than Star Trek. Even though the Mirror Universe reveal was celebrated for its surprise, some felt betrayed that the show had tricked them into trusting Lorca. Subsequent Star Trek shows, perhaps wary of alienating traditional fans again, returned to safer creative waters. Strange New Worlds embraced the episodic optimism of the original series. Lower Decks leaned into meta-comedy and nostalgia. Picard, while serialized, focused more on character-driven legacy stories than long-term deception. Even Discovery itself retreated from that kind of narrative gamble. Its later seasons became more straightforward, high-concept missions, emotional arcs, and Federation rebuilding themes replaced secret identity conspiracies. It's as if Discovery Season 1 was Star Trek's great experiment, a test to see how far the franchise could stretch before breaking. Lorca, the anti-captain Star Trek needed. The brilliance of Season 1's twist wasn't just that Lorca was evil, it was that he felt believable as a captain in wartime. Jason Isaacs delivered one of the most compelling performances in modern Trek history, making Lorca a man of steel and secrets. His authority was magnetic. His charisma was undeniable. Even when his methods were questionable, fans couldn't look away. That's what made the twist so effective. Lorca was the embodiment of Starfleet's own moral compromises, exaggerated to their breaking point. And when the truth emerged that this man wasn't even from our universe, it reframed the entire season as a study in trust and identity. What makes someone Starfleet? Is it the uniform? The rank? The ideals they claim to uphold? The tragedy of Lorca is that he revealed how thin the line could be between the Federation's righteousness and the Terran Empire's ambition. It's a lesson Star Trek hasn't really revisited since, perhaps because it struck too close to the heart of what makes the franchise idealistic. Discovery's Mirror gamble paved the way for modern Trek. While no other Star Trek series has attempted a deception as grand as Discovery's first season, the shockwaves of that decision can be felt across the franchise. Star Trek Picard Season 1 and 2 both flirted with moral murkiness, synthetic life bans, conspiracies within Starfleet, but neither dared to completely rewrite their characters midstream. Strange New Worlds has embraced character-driven twists, but remains firmly anchored in optimism. What Discovery accomplished was a blueprint for serialized risk. It proved that Star Trek could thrive in a format dominated by mystery boxes and long-game plotting without losing its thematic core. The Mirror Universe storyline forced viewers to reckon with what they expect from Star Trek heroes, and whether those expectations could survive in a world that hides its villains behind familiar faces. A risk worth taking, even if it never happens again.